What's up, guys? It's Josh from Cardfight Empire here with the second place of our ARG Charlotte, North Carolina ARG, and I will let him introduce himself a little further.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Alex. I played Deletors today. Took second overall, 6-1. Only loss was to the number one, the guy that beat me. He was really good with his deck. But this is the deck that I played, and I was representing my clan that I've always played. It's Link Joker. I was playing Deletors today.
Awesome. Well, how did you think? I mean, playing one of the clans from the Stargate booster that was brand new right out of the set. Like, what did you think about the other Stargate clans, or like, were you worried about anything as a matchup coming into this tournament, or what made you decide to pick Deletors?
I picked Deletors, one, because it was the only thing I could really finish in time, but secondly, against Chaos and Messiah had a really good matchup just because they need their Vanguard skills to really do stuff, and with deleting you get rid of it. And then the other, I didn't play against Gallop, so I didn't have to worry about that. And that one was also the same thing. You get rid of the Vanguard skill for Gallop and he kind of just sits there and doesn't do anything. Victor was the only one that I had problems with the entire day, and that's just because it doesn't matter whether or not they get the ride skills. It's just there's a whole bunch of restanding going on. So that was the only really thing I was worried about today.
Awesome. Victor is clearly a threat as it took first place. But yeah, it was definitely good for you to be worried about that. Did you remember any of your matchups, like your matchups from round to round, or like what was your hardest matchup, easiest matchup?
My two hardest matchups were the two Victor decks that I played. My easiest matchup was my first round Messiah player. I actually OTK'd him with my Deleter build.
With the given turn, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
It unfortunately didn't stick. He did heal at 6, but I did push 6 in one turn, which I was happy with.
That's all. Was he at 0 damage?
He was at 0.
Oh wow! So you pushed him from 0 to 6.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we can get right into your deck profile.
All right. So I'm gonna start off with my grade 0s. This was my starter, Sprout Deleter Lucci. Most people that were running the Deletors here ran the other Deleter starter from Rondo. I like this one because I built my deck to be both the long, slow, long out drown, and also with the crush rush build. So this is Deleter Lucci. His skill is when this card is retired from rearguard due to the effect of one of your cards with Deleter, you can choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the back row and lock it, and you vanish delete a card. I loved him because he got rid of annoying starters, so that way they couldn't use their abilities going into like their GB turn, so they had to wait in order to do it, and I really liked the ability to stop them to do it, or they had to spend resources to unlock it. So that was Lucci, and I really liked him. But I did run 2 of the other starter. I did run 2 of the Flutter Deleter Zuigi. He is a really key piece for the rush build because he replenishes your supplies from actually throwing down your hand and to given. So his skill is when this unit is retired from rearguard due to the effect or cost of one of your Deleters, you reveal the top card. If it's a Deleter, you call it. If you don't, you put it in the drop zone. And then if you call the card, you put this into your soul and countercharge 1. So it pays you back for playing the rush build. So I run 2 of him just to have a bit of backup for when I did my plays. And then onto our trigger lineup, I ran 4 of Rendering Deleter Efames. Efames is one of the greatest stands that could have ever been made for Deleter. It has the same effect basically as Zuigi, only it's even better. Because when this card is retired from rearguard due to the effect of your Deleter, you check the top card. If it's a Deleter, you call it, but then you also give the card you called 5 extra K. So it helps you build a stage, especially on a turn where your opponent's deleted. So it's really advantageous. And then I ran, of course, 4 heals, the only heal trigger that Deleters possess. So you kind of have to play it because Deleter is so specific. That's just what you have to do. And then I ran 4 copies of Cramping Deleter Eddie. Because standing and attacking multiple times in order to make your opponent be punished for having a deleted Vanguard is important. I did run 8 stand, but Eddie also has a really good skill. On place, if your opponent has deleted Vanguard, you draw 1 card. So it's really good at replenishing your hand for having thrown it all down or guarding. And then lastly, I ran 4 copies of Biting Deleter Giva. And he is really good because he's a recycler, but he also helps you to maintain your counterblast. Because at the end of the battle, that he boosted. If your opponent has a deleted Vanguard and you have a deleter Vanguard, you can put him back on the top of your deck and shuffle, and then you countercharge one, and then they vanish delete one. There were some times where I had to call him and use him for a given, so in those cases I didn't put him back because the skill is not mandatory. And that's it for my zeros. Onto my ones. I ran 4 copies of Remove Deleter Igalga. This is the new PG that came out in Rondo of Chaos. It's good for the rush build because one, it protects everything in any of your rear guards, and secondly, if it's in the drop zone, you can bind it face down to give something 4K. So that's really good in hitting stages. And then I ran 4 copies of Ill Fate Deleter Drown. This card really helps to fix hands a lot of times, because sometimes I would open up with him and not a grade 2 or not a grade 3, and using his skill would help to fix that, because his skill is, at the end of the battle, he boosts a Vanguard with Deleter in his card name. You put him into the soul, discard a card, and then draw 2, and your opponent vanish deletes 1. So this has a really good way of filtering through the deck and being able to fix your hands. And lastly, for my grade 1s, I ran 4 copies of High Deleter Fawan. He is the stride fodder for deleters from Rondo, and he basically makes it easier for you to stride into your deleters. And he also has the skill Counterblast 1. When he's discarded for the cost of your deleter stride, you can pay the cost and call him back to rear guard. So that's really good. It's giving you a unit to sacrifice for your strides. Now onto my grade 2s. I ran 2 copies of Punishment Deleter Gieron. I ran this guy because I was also running the Vanish Delete engine, and he's really good at helping with that because he has the ability to become massive, but he also fuels your Vanish Delete. So he has the continuous skill Rear Guard. This unit gets power plus 1,000 for every card that's Vanish Deleted, so he has the potential to become 13 and 15k base constantly. And he also has the skill at the end of the turn or end of the battle, your Vanguard with Deleter and its card name attack to Vanguard, Vanish Delete, the opponent Vanish Deletes a card. So that's really good at fueling that. It gets rid of some annoying things from their thing. And next I ran 2 copies of the Clipping Deleter Evo, and he's a key piece for the combo because on place of a deleted, when your opponent has a deleted Vanguard and you play him, you counterblast 2, search any card that's not himself. So if you play this card and you don't have Given, he gets you Given, or he also gets like maybe a sack piece like your Flutter Deleter here, so you are able to call more things and recover from your turn. Next, I played 3 copies of Lie Down Deleter Given. This card was one of the MVPs of this deck. This is the reason why I was able to do so much. He at the end of he has ability to make your Vanguard restand, and with the new deleter support, he actually benefits your Vanguard because you don't minus as much. So he has the skill Counterblast, Auto Counterblast 1, card with deleter in its card name, retire this unit and 4 of your other deleter rear guards. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. You may pay the cost. If you do, stand all of your grade 3 Vanguard with gray in its card name. And then that was it. And then my last grade 2, I ran 4 copies of Forbid Deleter Zaklad. He was also an MVP of the deck. Every single game that I played, I was able to pull off his skill at least once. So his skill is act once per turn, Counterblast 1. If your opponent has a deleted Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, he gets plus 2k, and also gets the skill Auto. If it hits your opponent and they have a grade 3 Vanguard, they cannot stride during their next stride phase. So in this format, not being able to stride at any point is pretty much a death sentence. And that's it for my grade 2s. On to my grade 3s. I ran 4 copies of Dark Jet Deleter Grand. And Grand is the good grade 3 from Rondo of Chaos. He has the ability, the act, Counterblast 1, sacrifice 2 dudes, delete your opponent's Vanguard. It's a hefty cost, but it's still better than Grayon, which is Counterblast 2, in a deck that eats through Counterblast. So this is the card that I'm playing for the backup. And he also has the thing on stride of a deleter. You reveal the top card. If it's a deleter, you call it, and then you choose a unit and give it plus 2, and then your opponent Vanish deletes 2 cards in their drop zone. So it's really good with if you're trying to do a pure Vanish Delete build, but even so, it still removes annoying cards from your opponent's drop zone. And then my last grade 3, I ran 4 copies of Hack Deleter Grey Gil. He is the main grade 3 that you want to ride for both the rush build and for the build that I was doing, because he has the skill on place of Vanguard, Vanguard or Rear Guard. Soul Blast 2 cards with delete on their card name, and when this is placed, you can have it give 5k, but if it's placed on Vanguard, it also deletes the opponent. And then he has another skill. I didn't ever use the second skill, but if he's on Rear Guard and you sacrifice him and your hand is 3 or less, you draw a card. So this was really good. The ideal thing is to ride him and delete for no cost, call a clipping or call a given and then call a board, and then proceed to push in damage for your opponent for massive amounts of power and struggle. And that's it for my main deck. On to my strides. I ran 4 copies of Deliberate Deleter Audion. He is the really good stride from Rondo. He has the skill auto or act once per turn, flip a copy of him, sacrifice a dude, delete all of your opponent's Vanguard, and then your front row gets power plus 2k for every copy of himself. So late game, he gets really, really strong and makes it hard for your opponent to do anything. And then my next one, I ran 4 copies of Original Deleter Gowend. I didn't only went into him once, but he's mainly there for his continuous ability. If you've had to spend your entire hand guarding, he's really good, because if your hand is 1 or less and he's in G zone, you can stride for free. And his axe skill is once per turn, sacrifice 2 to delete. So he's a heftier cost than Audion, but if he's the only thing you can stride into because you have no hand, he's really good. And then I ran 1 copy of Original Deleter Agorg. Agorg, of course, I was never able to actually pull off his win con, but it's still a Counterblast 1, sack a dude. You delete, you lock, and you vanish. It's as simple as that. Deleting your opponent is really good. I only went into him once today. I usually killed them on given. And then I ran 2 copies of Nebula Dragon, Big Crunch Dragon. I didn't ever go into him, but I just like him because there's things that get around resist, and I like him because it's once per turn, Counterblast 1, Persona Flip, choose a card in the column, Omega Lock the entire column. And then I ran 1 Amnesty for the mirror match, which I never went into. Then I ran 2 copies of Blaming Deleter Ibiores. He has the skill Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 when it's placed on Guardian. You choose up to 3 units in your opponent's front row. They get minus 1,000 power for every one of your rear guards and Vanguard with Deleter, and every card in your G zone with Deleter in its card name until the end of turn. So it's really good at making things smaller. And then I ran 1 Destiny Guardian on place, unlock 2, or unlock up to 2 if you unlock 2 plus 10k shield. And I ran 1 Cosmo G Guard on place, Counterblast 1. Your opponent chooses a card in their back row and locks it. If they do, it gets plus 5k. And that was it came in handy of stopping like Crayon Tigers or even Cool Hank. So it gets rid of their booster. And that was the end of it, and that was what I played with, and I took second.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for doing a deck profile with us. Obviously, Deletors is top tier deck, and you definitely showed a interesting build that has a lot of tech cards that a lot of people wouldn't really consider or think of. So
yeah, most people either went with the rush or didn't do anything at all with it.
Yeah, so definitely there was I think you were one of the 5-ish Deletors players.
3 or 4.
Yeah, all the ones I saw had the pretty basic build, but it's really interesting seeing your build because you clearly well thought it out. And yeah, so this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, guys, with the 2nd place ARG North Carolina Charlotte winner. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.